So this concludes the session. As you just saw that through our speakers, that Professor Rao has done contributions in diverse applications. So from wireless to biomedical applications to sparse signal recovery. And let's give a round of applause to our speakers who helped us realize this. So I guess, yeah.
So I guess we're going to move to the session with all the students that were not good enough to do homeworks. So this is going to be more free-flowing. And this is going to be dedicated to comments from Bhaskar's colleagues, friends, and family, and former students. So this is, do you want to give the list of folks? So in terms of colleagues and students, please feel free. I know Dave Sorter, we will start with your comments. Do you want to? Yeah. Oh, perfect.
Okay. All right. So this is Professor David Sorter, and Professor Harold or Hal Sorensen could not be here today. And I need to mention them because Hal Sorensen was one of the founding faculty of the School of Engineering. He came here in about Hal couldn't make it today. He came here around 1969-70, and he created what was called the Systems Science program at UCSD. And it turns out David Sorter was hired as one of the system science professors. I was a system science graduate student. And the reason I mention this is Bhaskar Rao was the last faculty member hired into the UCSD system science program. So he's actually a system scientist. And that's why he's so universal. We hired him precisely because any system of importance, physical or engineering, mathematical, he could put his mind to it and solve really important problems. Anyhow, I'm just going to turn it over to David Sorter now.
Well, they asked me to give a brief overview of how our department came to be and what the department, especially as it was when Bhaskar came to us. So I'm going to make it really quick. They wanted somebody who would go back in time, so they got somebody really old because he was there. Okay, so let me just quickly go through it. This is California higher education. It's the 1950s. Graduated from a junior college in California. Decided I wanted to be an electrical engineer and checked with the family, and the maximum tuition I could afford is $0. Well, that kind of cuts the search down quite a bit. Berkeley, okay? Berkeley and nothing else. That's the only school that you could go to then. Now, some of you are going to come back and say, wait, I'm not as old as you are, but I know that in the 50s, UCLA was not a minor school. It was part of the UC system, and it was also a growing school at that time. What about UCLA? UCLA, for political reasons, and when I talk about political reasons, I'm talking about university politics. I'm not talking about world politics. For political reasons, UCLA could only offer an engineering degree, a single engineering degree. So if you're coming out and you want electrical engineering, Berkeley's it. So let's move ahead 10 years. Now we're mid-60s. I'm working in industry. I'm going to UCLA. I kind of minimized their undergraduate program because I said, well, it's just broadly engineering. But the graduate program, that worked out really nicely because there was essentially very little administrative load, individual investigators. I'm in kind of guidance and control. And there was a fellow there that was doing a couple of senior people actually that was doing guidance and control. And I'm interpret that broadly. Had like a couple of senior faculty, maybe a couple of junior faculty, and a small cohort of graduate students. And so when it came to graduate students, the organization was ideal. All right? So that's mid-60s at UCLA. Now's time to make a decision, grow up. Do I want to stay in industry because I was working in industry while I was going to school, or do I want an academic position? I won't go through all of those things, but because many of you know what the situation is. But what about UCSD? I haven't mentioned UCSD. Well, when I left Berkeley, UCSD would have been considered, like Davis or one of the other schools, a research institute, not a regular university. All right? But in the mid-60s, UCSD was starting to put together a, quote, engineering program. Now, was it an engineering program or wasn't it an engineering program? Some would say it's not an engineering program. I don't see any engineering names in any of the programs that UCSD has. In fact, it had two programs of interest to us. Their aims, applied mechanics and engineering system. Oh, well, I saw an engineering hidden there. And another one was applied physics and information systems, okay? These were separate departments. So in the mid-70s, I show up at UCSD. Again, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's Edenic, but it's really nice because very little administration, small departments. The department I was in was a fraction of the size the current ECE department is. We had bioengineering, we had structural engineering, we had ocean science, we had combustion, okay? Very little administration, so the senior faculty, for example, would have review of graduate applications in structures, okay? In other words, to make sure the financing went well. Now, of course, we kind of realized that that kind of department doesn't scale well. By that I mean, if it gets bigger, let's say schisms develop. So we realized that, but the thing is, we thought it would be forever small. What was interesting at that time was that the undergraduate program, I haven't said anything yet about the undergraduate program here. Again, for political reasons, the undergraduate program was, we put together something that was an attempt to model the Oxbridge system, where you have residential colleges. The students are admitted to the university in a residential college. They don't choose a major until the junior year, all right? So for example, the undergraduate classes that I taught, the degrees that we were offering were BA degrees, not BSs, BA degrees. The idea being that the students that we had were planning to go on to further their education. And so what we were providing was, how should I put it, the kind of the basic information they need, math, physics, chemistry, and things like that. I mean, correct me if you viewed it in different ways. Now, I don't want to be dismissive, but there still is a college system here, but their control is much less for reasons that we'll just quickly go through.
But you might want to talk about
What? Okay, so this is the kind of system that Bhaskar came into. Because of the strength of the college system at that time, we had to be a little tricky about how we organized, because we're turning out engineers, all right? One of my co-authors over the decades did mathematics at New College, Oxford. So you might say, oh, wasn't that interesting? You and your co-worker both were at New Colleges. Well, New College, Oxford is 15th century or 14th century. New College in UCSD is 20th century. But he often, not often, but several times told me that one of the things, he was a scholarship student. He comes to his dormitory when he moves in as an undergraduate, and it's explained to him that Oxford University is not only there to teach a particular topic, but to teach people to be gentlemen. Well, you could imagine that didn't really go over all that well at UCSD. Anyway, I'll kind of leave it there. When Bhaskar came, we were still in the process of trying to finesse an engineering degree with a college degree. I won't go into it, but obviously, if you're going to have an accredited electrical engineering degree or things, you can't have the same rigidity as the college degree. So that's when we brought him in. He came in while we still had the two departments, neither one of which claimed to be electrical engineering. But then, of course, as time moved on, things changed.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. All right.
Initially, there were two departments in what was the School of Engineering. There was the APIS, Applied Physics and Information Systems or Sciences, and there was the AIMS, Applied Mechanics and Engineering Sciences. There was not the traditional division into engineering disciplines, which was instituted so that we could become an accredited engineering college. At that point in time, after Bhaskar had already been here, Bhaskar came when we were still in AIMS department. There was no electrical and computer engineering department. Those departments came into being, we became accredited, and at that time, our entire group, the system science group, moved into what was electrical and computer engineering. So in fact, Bhaskar was hired into what is now really the mechanical engineering department. It's just that our group, which focused on signal processing, systems, and controls, was a more natural fit to be moved into electrical engineering. So that's how that happened. Bhaskar Rao came to us from USC, as you know. I was a graduate student at the time. In fact, when Bhaskar came here, he's very a talented young man. And the first thing that caught my attention was the fact that he was younger than me and he was going to be my professor. Now, to be fair, though, I was on the committee to help evaluate him, and I was very taken and appreciated his creative and open mind and his nose for good ideas. And I went to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory after I graduated, returned to UCSD. I was in the department, worked with Bhaskar Rao. And the thing that Bhaskar has is the consummate ability to see where things are going, what people have missed, and he jumps on it. And he is multi-talented and multifaceted. As you've seen with the talks that are going on here, he doesn't just live and dwell in one area. He sees the connections, and he expands himself. And let me just say something about Bhaskar's pedigree. You know, his advisor is a very illustrious advisor, Professor Kung. Professor Kung's advisor is a very illustrious and famous Indian scientist, engineer, Thomas Kailath. Kailath is a giant. Kung is a giant. And Bhaskar Rao has proven himself to be a giant. But let me just say one more thing. Kung, K-U-N-G, is a common name in China that they pride themselves, as in all likelihood, and a large percentage of them are, having been descended from Confucius. So Bhaskar's father was Kung, a brilliant man. His grandfather was Tom Kailath, the brilliant man, and his ancient ancestor, the brilliant Confucius. Okay, I just want to say that.
Can you put the video? So this is a surprise that the mystery colleague has sent you and said that he could not make it because of a conference. So, please.
Retirement parties, some say, are bittersweet. The joy of celebrating a career is tinged with the thoughts of a future without interactions with the individuals who is retiring. However, For me personally, this is not a typical retirement party. It is not about a typical person. And there is no tinge of bitterness today. This is a purely joyous celebration of Bhaskar's great career, accomplishments, innumerable contributions, and deeply experienced friendship. I extend my heartiest congratulations to Bhaskar, to Krishnaveni, and the entire Rao family, especially Bhaskar's mother, who is with us today. You have raised a great son. I'm also certain that Bhaskar's father, himself a most distinguished academician, is applauding Bhaskar's most remarkable journey of becoming a great scholar, teacher, and a wise guru to many. I offer my sincere thanks to Bhaskar for giving me personally an invaluable gift to enjoy his company as a colleague, a collaborator, and a dear friend during the past 3 decades. My own professional journey would have been much less exciting and personal life much less meaningful without Bhaskar. That's for sure. By the way, to be fully honest, I must confess that over the decades, my interactions with Bhaskar would always leave some bitter taste that surprisingly I started craving for. You see, one of my claims to fame is being the person who is spotted with Bhaskar at various coffee joints on and off campus, happily in conversations and sipping coffee, dark and very bitter. It turns out that we have not had an occasional cup of coffee. Rather, as I started counting, we have enjoyed over a couple of 1,000 cups of coffee, almost as a weekly ritual over the past 28 years, non-stop. Not missing it during sabbaticals or even the pandemics. I truly believe that with each cup of that bitter coffee, my life was becoming sweeter and fuller. Monks consider the practice of sharing tea as a communal meditation that leads to enlightenment. I regard my 1,000 cups of bitter coffee with Bhaskar as conversations and meditations with my own personalized Buddha. I wish for each and every one of you to find the Bhaskar in your own journey. Thank you so much.
Should I? Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Hari Garudadri. I first met Bhaskar at one of our conferences, ICASP, back in 1992. Just like Pia met Bhaskar first by reading his paper, I met him by eavesdropping on his conversation. There were these two professors at the next table, and some of you guys know Indians tend to speak very loud when they're excited. The volume raises, the pitch increases, all of this stuff. And these two guys were going at it with each other, all gloves off. And the topic of conversation was something called linear predictive coding. And I never took a course on LPC, but I was self-taught in that, and I was using it in my work. And in that half an hour, I got so many deep insights into LPC than in my 12 years of dealing with it. But the first time I met Bhaskar in person came about 6 years later. I had just joined Qualcomm to implement speech recognition for those young guys. This is like Alexa and Siri, that's in your smartphones now. We wanted to put that in regular cell phones. And my boss said, Hari, you should go talk to some professors at UCSD. Thank you. I go to meet Bhaskar. He said, oh, we should invite Mohan. So Mohan, me, and Bhaskar, we're having coffee. And I could tell Bhaskar is not interested in the project. Mohan is not interested in the project. I am not interested in the project. But, money talks. Especially in research, money talks much louder. So we did the project, and we had a fantastic system. And we showed it to the product guys. I said, why are you guys doing this? This is in English. All our customers are in Japan and Korea. I said, well, we don't have anybody in the team who speaks Japanese and Korean. I said, well, none of you guys speak English as native language anyway. Go build it in Japanese and Korean. So a year later, we deployed about 500 million speech recognition systems on smartphones, on cell phones in those days. And then the project was shut down. That's a separate story. So 10 years later, or 10 years ago, I quit Qualcomm and came to UCSD as a research scientist. And I go to Bhaskar, say, Bhaskar, we should work on hearing aids. He said, great, but I don't know anything about hearing aids. That's great. I don't know either. But there are lots of people who know nothing about hearing loss, and they're able to sell really, really expensive hearing aids. So we started working on hearing aids. We've been at it for about close to 8 years. We got some money from government to license all the patents that we wrote, about a dozen patents. More than half of them have Bhaskar's and my name on the patent, one with Trong. And the takeaway message I want to give you here is, it's true that hearing aids don't work for many, many people. Especially, we are currently working with Veterans Administration. There is young people, 25 to 40 years, they have been exposed to blasts in the battlefield, Iraq and Afghanistan. And when they go to the audiologist to get VA-approved benefits, the current gold standards, they say your hearing is normal because their hearing loss is at the cortical region, not at the cortical region. And VA recognized this, and they have been giving these people mild gains. It's like guesswork. We don't know what to do. This is off-label use because FDA says we don't give you hearing aids, but they give them anyway. And they came across our work. And the techniques that we have developed are actually able to find out the hearing loss in these subjects. And the techniques, they're all very much same as what other people have been talking about. So that's the power of collaboration and having a great mentor. Bhaskar, you have been mentoring me for more than 30 years. Thank you very much. I learned a lot from you. Thank you very much.
We have one more short talk from David Love at Purdue.
Hi, Bhaskar. This is David Love. I'm really sorry I'm not able to be there at your retirement celebration in person. I wanted to thank you for everything you have done for me over the years, being such a great friend and a great mentor. You have really served as a role model for many communications and signal processing faculty like myself. You've made such fundamental contributions to a wide array of areas, from sparse signal reconstruction to Bayesian learning, to array processing, to MIMO. It is very, very impressive. Your contributions to any one of these fields alone would have made for a very, very successful career. The thing that has always impressed me the most about you, however, is how you treat people. You show such great respect and care for everyone. Again, I'm sorry I'm not able to be there in person. Congratulations on your retirement, but I know I'll see you again in the future at a conference real soon. Thank you.
Can you put the list of the speakers of the PhD students? Yeah, perfect. So Ulysses.
Professor Rao, everybody, good afternoon. My name is Yeliz Sokkoz. That's my maiden name. I was Professor Rao's PhD student from 2000 to 2004, so it's been almost 20 years since I graduated. I've been working in Qualcomm's wireless research and development group since then. So whatever I did in my PhD, I've been pretty much continuing that in my industry career as well. Today, I'm very happy to be here and pay tribute to Professor Rao, a remarkable academician who's also been an incredible mentor that's touched many, many lives. And I just wanted to give you the graduate student perspective, a view into Professor Rao's career. So, as we all seen today, throughout his academic journey, Professor Rao has always been a constant pursuer of knowledge. His thirst for learning, ability to switch academic focus within a vast area of, both signal processing and communications research, that's been very inspiring. And it encouraged all of his students, us, to embrace curiosity and exploration as the driving force in our lives. Just coming to reality, a lot of people, including my own circle of friends, family, not everybody has great memories of their PhD years. Maybe some of you can relate to that. But I, on the other hand, I've always considered myself to be very fortunate. I got to dive deep into an area that I'm passionate about under the mentorship of somebody who's not only smart and creative, but also truly cared about his students as people and respect them. And that was very important for us. So Professor Rao has always been able to strike a great balance between providing guidance to students, but also allowing me to drive my own research. And I think it all helped all of us to develop as better problem solvers and independent thinkers. And he was there to suggest us solutions when I got stuck. But on the other hand, he also always let me find my way through. So I always appreciated that. And as I said, he also had, genuine care and concern for his students and, respected us as people, not just an academic interaction. Just some of my personal experiences during my PhD in the middle of the school year, I had to travel abroad for a family member's medical emergency. And he was very supportive, and I always appreciated him letting me be there for my family. I think he values family, and I think he reflected that to his students as well. And also when I expressed interest in industry, he helped me find the internship at Qualcomm through his contacts, and which actually eventually led to my dream job I've been working on for 20 years. So I'm forever grateful for his support and impact, not just on my PhD journey, but on my whole professional career. So thank you, Professor Rao, for your outstanding contributions to our academic community and for being an exemplary mentor that made lasting impact on many lives over your incredible career. And congratulations on your retirement. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xu Tan. I graduated in 2013. under Professor Rao. And since then, I work at Viasat, and then now actually I work at Apple as a wireless system architect. I've been utilizing a lot of knowledge and things that I learned from Professor Rao in my industry career, and then I really beneficial for that. So, but first of all, I would like to say that it's a really honor for me to be here to say a few words about Professor Rao, my PhD advisors, and my mentors. So this is a little personal, but I would like to share. So before Professor Rao became my PhD professor, actually the beginning of my PhD journey was not very smooth. There are moments that are actually very doubtful, and then I almost think about give up. I still remember the day that I nervously would walk out to Professor Rao's office and then requested whether he can be my PhD advisor. That was back in 2008. And from that moment, he became not just a mentor, but one of the most important persons that touches my life. And perhaps he had changed the course of my life, actually. And I truly believe that if not because of Professor Rao, I would not have achieved the achievement I have today and have the privilege to continue to achieve more. And because of that, I'm really grateful of Professor Rao, and thank you very much for believing in me. So, Professor Rao's dedication to his student is unparalleled. He has spent many hours patiently explaining very complex theory to his students and pushing us to think critically and inspiring us to reach to the higher height that we didn't even imagine of. And his support and belief in our ability has been our driving force. So as all the Professor Rao students, we have taken his class before. And I actually enjoy Professor Rao's class very much. And I remember for his class, I have to write down many equations from that he wrote on the whiteboard. And then I always wonder, actually, like, if it's the same material need to present every year, why don't just prepare in the presentation slide? And actually, he once shared with me that he intentionally wrote on the whiteboard. That was before the pandemic, by the way. And so the reason is he would like his students to actually write down the equations and the materials on the papers. And the students he believed the student will remember it better, has a deeper memory because of that. And this is really enlightening for me. And believe it or not, I actually think it's really true. I experienced it for myself. And then since then, I developed a habit of writing down my ideas and thoughts on the papers. And it has been very beneficial for me in my career actually too. And but because of these small actions, actually we can tell Professor Rao is actually putting deep effort and giving thoughts on how to help the students learn better. And yeah, this is really Professor Rao's effort to develop a new, better students. So I cherish the moment we have spent together, from the academic discussions to the breakthrough that we share. And I fondly remember the yearly tradition of the Professor Rao students. We will go to eat at this Indian buffet at the Ashoka, usually it's Ashoka. And for these moments, it made me realize that the important are not just research, but also the friendship and the community that we built. Also, another thing about Professor Rao is he actually has very tight connections with the industry. And so he has this commitment to bring the academic world and the practical applications. And I remember very so often, he will invite some speakers from the industry and give talks to his students. And this has truly beneficial for me, especially after my graduate school and I work in the industry. So Professor Rao, words can never fully convey my depth of my gratitude to you. You have not only shaped my academic experience, but also enriched my life in ways beyond measure. Thank you for your guidance, your patience, and your belief in my potentials. So as we celebrate your retirement, we recognize that this is not an end, but a new beginning. And for this new chapter of your life, I wish you retirement that filled with joy, good health, and fulfillment. And so, Professor Rao, I think your legacy will live on through the countless lives that you have touched and the knowledge that you have shared. I am eternally grateful to be part of your legacy. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jin Liu. I'm Professor Rao's PhD student, graduated in 2019. And it's really glad to be here and hear the lectures of Professor Delgado, Professor Piapo again, and see my committee members and many lovely professors and friends here. And I share many themes as the previous students said earlier. So I just recall a few themes from the research perspective and personal perspective. So from my PhD, I mainly worked on like low rank sparse and sparse-based learning and compressive sensing and robust estimation. Then I did my postdoc in UIUC, working on Army Research Lab's IoT project. So because earlier some professors mentioned Professor Rao's work on sparse-based learning, so there's some interesting story I'd like to share. So one important problem is in IoT networks, there are some sensors malfunctioning or disconnected or even malicious. So robustness is critical there. So actually in the project, I applied the sparse-based learning methods there. And the result is actually too good to believe and with some theoretical justifications. And actually, the researcher from Army Research Lab, he independently implemented the code to verify that. And later on, asked me some sparse-based learning lecture slides and papers from Professor Rao. Yeah, this is one gift the professor gave me. And now I'm currently working on Mitsubishi Electric Research Lab. And actually, the sparsity, low rankness, those things are actually quite helpful in my research. For example, now currently people are using large language models, and the companies want to fine-tune it using private domain-specific data. But actually, many companies cannot afford so many GPUs, and the cloud is very expensive. So there's some emerging techniques like parameter-efficient fine-tuning, only tune a small fraction of the parameters or some extra small parameters. Actually, sparsity plays an important role there. And also, if you Google search large language models, there are also many papers talk about intrinsic low rank. So the things I learned from Professor Rao is actually very helpful. And also in some biosignal processing, like you want to use different sensors, EMG, FMG, EEG sensor, many sensors to control the robot. So multimodality AI is also a great interest. But some sensors are not reliable, or some sensors, like an EEG sensor, not touch your head, or FMG sensor, disconnected. So actually, the robust estimation is also plays a very important role there. And these are from my research perspective, and from my personal perspective. So actually, I heard from Professor Rao over a decade ago when I was a master's student at Tsinghua University, the top university in China. So my roommate was working in the DSP lab, and he told me their lab read many papers from Professor Rao. So at that time, I became very interested in Professor Rao. So later on, I chose his array signal processing class, compressive sensing class. Yeah, and I just recall some things in the past. And one thing I remember clearly is like in the ITA conference. So I remember that Professor Pierre Morning from UIUC, when he talked to our lab mate, so who is your advisor now? He said, Professor Rao. He immediately with a thumbs up. So at that time, so I set the goal that I want to be a great researcher like him. And also I talked to some professors in my poster. So I remember one professor worked on wireless communication. He told me that he read many papers from Professor Rao, and every his journal paper is of very high quality. So I also set my personal goal to be like him, publish high quality works. And actually, Professor Rao gave me a very invaluable gift. So I remember that was during my first journal paper submission. So to submit to the IEEE transactions on signal processing. So we proposed a great method and with theoretical guarantees. And but in the review feedback, one reviewer did not even believe the result, the theoretical claims, and did not understand the proof. At that time, I remember in his office, when we discussed about rebuttal, I was very nervous. And of course, I think Professor realized that. I remember he asked me one question. Do you think it's a good paper? So I suddenly get relieved and becomes confident. So this influenced me a lot in later researches. Whenever I submit some AI conference paper and deal with new RIPS rebuttal, so usually we get nervous, right? But whenever I get such feelings, I recall professor's words and suddenly take things easy and become confident. And there, Professor Rao, I mean, to me, he's a very great professor, a very great advisor, and a great person. So usually, when I was a student, and even recently, some students ask me, how is Professor Rao? I usually give one word or two words. One word is great. Two words is A+. Yeah, I really appreciate Professor Rao, and I hope he can continue to do some research because there are many exciting things. And I really thank Professor Rao. Yeah.
It's getting late, and as the last speaker here, I think I have the greatest honor to make my speech as short as possible. So bear with me. I think my career is not about academia, so I'm just gonna share a story. that influenced me a lot. I think 16 years ago, it's like something that I asked Professor Rao, why you do research? I think Professor Rao told me is to have fun. I think back then I nodded like this, as if I got it, but I assure you, in my mind, it's like, what, why, and how come? All the question marks, because the teacher says, I just want to graduate. I cannot get it. Okay, time constraint, 3 minutes. Fast forward, no time to unravel. Now, friends, I got it. I know why. Again, no time to unravel, but here is how I know it. Along the way, many people actually ask me, same question, why you choose this project, why you choose that, whatever. Here's what I share with them. It's like, among many other practical material, whatever incentives, they're all legit. There's one interesting aspect I learned from my PhD advisor, which is you have a choice to have fun in what you do, and don't forget that. So I think just to wrap up, I think Tara said, testing us whether we did our homework or not. I think Professor Rao's students always do their homework. So here it comes. I asked ChatGPT, is like, what will be, the most elegant way to say, I don't have the words to describe how deeply thankful, for a person who helped me so much over the years, and who I care so deeply. Here we go. Professor Rao, words cannot describe my deep appreciation. Thanks. I just want to say, as your student, I'm very proud to be a member of our DS Lab. I never took granted, for all the support you gave me, because I know it is only because of your academic and industrial reputation that paved the ways for me and other students to have a good chance to be successful. And thank you so much. Congratulations. And please know this, whatever you choose to do next, either academic or personal habits or hobbies, me, myself, and your students will always be here. We will always be your biggest fans. And folks, as you may know, every great presentation in human history with an everlasting impression always end with one more thing. So now, please join me in welcoming.
Yeah, you know what? There's something else.
Oh.
This is probably one more thing. So thank
I
you
see.
very much. I do not need to introduce myself because I actually work full-time here, but this is not about me. This is about I am today a delivery guy. I am a messenger as well, and I have a very special present coming all the way half of the earth away from Vietnam, from a student of Professor Bhaskar Rao. That in August I went back to Vietnam and I had a very quick coffee with him, and I talked with him for some time, and then we talked about many different things, and at the end he said, as far as I know, I think my advisor is retiring. And then he said, I need to send him something. So then I went home, and then he said that, oh yeah, it's going to be a small thing. Can you bring it to for me to him? And I'm like, yes, of course I can do that. And then he bring me this. If you didn't appreciate it enough, you know what? I always travel with my carry-on luggage only. And he gave me this, and he said it's small. So then I said, do you mean this is small to you? And he said, you know what? You are my good friend, and this means a lot to me. I had no other word to say and say, okay, I will bring it. And this had gone with me halfway from on Earth through Japan. And for few days, I traveled in Japan and to here. And I was so worried that I could break this one. And now I am going to be off shoulder for this. But before I carry it to him, I'd really like to read his very short letter. Very short. I'm going to keep you long. I'm not going to keep you long. Dear Professor Rao, and this is from your student. His name is Anh Nguyen. And he's now the regional director of World Quant, which is a company that is doing all the trading in stock and so on. So he's doing very well. I am so grateful to have you as my advisor. Whenever thinking of the days working under your guidance at UCSD, I always feel more motivated, knowing that there's so much more to learn and keep moving forward. Thank you very much for everything. Congratulations and happy retirement, your student Anh Nguyễn. And now I'm gonna officially, hand this to him. And there's a very important message inside that I think a lot of people here already echo that a lot. And I think you want to see it personally, and I don't want to listen.
Okay. Congratulations. So I guess now we kept the best for the last. We're opening the floor for Bhaskar's family to make comments. And I know a few.
Surprise, Dad. So if those of you who don't know us, we're Professor Rao's daughters. I'm Sandeepta, and this is my younger sister, Nandana. I think when my dad told us that he was going to retire this year, I know I personally was taken a little aback, as I'm sure a lot of you were. Anyone who knows my dad knows that research is one of his biggest passions. And at that moment, I think I wondered a little about myself as well, selfishly, because growing up having a dad that was a UCSD professor was a big part of mine and Nandana's identities. We were always very proud to say that we were the daughters of a professor at UCSD. And I think I learned how to tell people that my dad taught DSP well before I understood what the words digital or signal or processing even meant. But I knew my alphabet. So everybody has highlighted my dad's amazing research accomplishments today, so we thought we would take a little bit of time to highlight a few aspects of the last 40 years that only Nandana and I can, which is what it's been like to have a UCSD professor as a dad. Well, not quite 40 years, we're not that old. So growing up with my dad meant that you never had to rush to the car after school because you knew that he would have a stack of papers to read in the car. And you could hang out with your friends a little longer without getting in trouble because he would have plenty to entertain himself with. Many of you may not know this. You may have seen some of the photos coming up every now and again, but my dad was a very enthusiastic soccer coach and also a very enthusiastic sideline parent. I never once missed one of our games. And in between games, he would always be there with a notepad and a pencil so that he could teach us a little bit of math on the edge of whatever equations he was working out for his own research. Personally, I have never understood how any of my friends in school managed to learn math or calculus or physics. I never bothered listening to the teacher in high school because I knew that I had access to the best teacher right at home. In fact, our dad never missed an opportunity to teach us some math. A frequent teaching opportunity was always very conveniently during finals week when he needed somebody to add up the scores on his students' exams. And Nandana, who is the much more patient daughter, was always his favorite recruit for that activity. But really, I do know we have both learned so much from our dad. He's taught us how to be consistent, the value of hard work, and he has taught us the incredible joy that can be found when you finally solve a problem that you have been working on for a very, very long time. So I want to say thank you to my father, who has always been an incredible source of inspiration and support to both of his daughters. I think we were both able to and wanted to pursue our own PhDs because we saw how much you truly love the work that you do and the incredible joy that you have received from research and teaching at UCSD all these many years. So Dad, we are very proud of you and we love you very much. Congratulations on your very well-deserved retirement. So I think my sister summed up really well what it was like having a UCSD professor as a dad. I think I'd just like to add that growing up, I thought everyone in the world loved their job, and that was very much because of the enthusiasm my dad has consistently displayed for his work. So it was actually surprising to learn that there are people out there who are just not that excited about what they do. But I'm sure, as many of you know, my dad has a certain vibrancy when he talks about his research and when he's teaching. And I think my mom can certainly tell you, overhearing Zoom calls during the pandemic, his Zoom lectures, that my dad will start talking very loudly and very animatedly and when he's in class. And that's just a testament to my dad's love for what he does. And that has remained, I think, consistent, if not grown, over the years, and that's been a very inspiring example for myself and for my sister. I think growing up, I also thought my dad had a very easy job. As my sister mentioned, he coached our soccer games. As an aside, my dad, I think, is the only soccer coach I've ever had who's assigned homework. And it was something along the lines of, if the ball is here and there are two players here, where will you position yourself? So very innovative and invested even on the soccer field. So he was coaching my soccer games. We were avid watchers of many crime TV shows. And then over the summers, we went on very cool vacations. And it wasn't until later that I learned that those cool vacations were actually work, because he was going to conferences, and he wasn't just there to hang out with his friends. He was actually, doing solid work during the day and then coming out to hang out with his family during dinner time. So it took me a while to really recognize just what a hard worker that my dad is, and the amount of time and effort it takes to build the type of career that he has. I think my understanding of that has also grown a bit since I've completed grad school and had my own PhD advisor. Now I recognize what an incredible achievement it is to have graduated 40 plus PhD students and to still at retirement have students emailing asking if they can work with him, if they'd be one of those students that he would advise. It really, in some ways, feels like my dad is some sort of celebrity when I think about how many lives that he has helped shape through his teaching and his research, and also because over the past several years, people have started coming up to him at conferences asking to take photos with him, which is new. So I'll just end here by saying thank you to my dad for being an amazing example of what it is to bring joy to your work every single day and to life, and what it is to bring joy and inspiration to those around you. Congratulations on your retirement, and excited for what is next.
Anyone else? Yeah. Oh, excellent. These were not built-in surprises.
Yeah, I wasn't planning to talk at all, but having heard so much about his academic, nobody touched on his personal or his contributions to us, the family members. So I thought, hey, I have to come and tell you people what a good person he is too, in that category also. So as you know, I am, we come from a big family. Bhaskar was the second, and I'm fifth in the chain. So I was the only one. As I grew up, I looked up to him. He was super brilliant. He was always first, always 100 out of 100 in math. And always my dad would say, look at him. He could do it himself. You should be able to do it. So I grew up looking up to him. I think it's true for all the siblings. So I was more like his older daughter. I was like, go, do. If I had a thought in my mind, I would go and do it without thinking about, maybe someone would say no and all. Just to illustrate that, when I was in middle school, my younger brother, he had swim lessons in the local swimming pool. And so I said, hey, I want to learn how to swim too. And so I wanted to find out if there were lessons for girls. But they said, no, there are no lessons. Hijli is a very small town. It was like, nothing for girls. We were second-class citizens. So I gathered two of my classmates. I was in middle school, 8th grade, 9th grade, maybe 8th grade. Yes, and I gathered two of my friends and walked up to the swimming pool instructor and said, hey, this is not fair. All the boys are getting instruction, and we are not even allowed, to swim. And so this man was like, he didn't expect it, and he didn't know what to answer. He said, okay, I'll try to help you as best as I can. And a few weeks later, he said, I will hold lessons, but you can only swim with the PhD students, not with the young undergraduate guys. So you can be at one edge of the pool, and they can swim on the other edge. And so that's how I learned swimming, and that too, some kind of swimming. To this day, I'm terrified of deep water. So I know how to float, I know how to do the crawl, but that's it. So just to illustrate. So naturally, as I was finishing my master's, I thought, hey, I want to do a PhD like Bhaskar did, And so I go up to my dad and I say, Dad, I want to take TOEFL, I want to do GRE, and I want to pursue a, PhD. And of course, my dad said, no, you can't do it. I don't have that plan for you, So no matter, I threw tantrums. And a lot of tantrums, but I just didn't get my way. So what do? I appealed to my older brother here. I think I wrote to him, and he kind of convinced my dad. He said, okay, she can come stay with me. So that, that was my dad's concern. He didn't want to send me to a strange country, to a strange city. So he assured him that, I will support her, I will guide her, and I'll see that she's safe and sound. So that part of my story made me what I am today. I was able to come here, finish my doctorate, and I have him to thank for that. And so, and also for my wedding to my husband, he supported us. He talked to my dad on our behalf, to my parents. He convinced them that he was a good partner, he was a good candidate, And so I broke all rules for wedding, but he kind of stood by me and supported me. And also when I had a very bad accident in the course of my PhD, he supported both of us through that horrible period. And so I just want to thank you, Bhaskar, for everything that you've done for me. And, we both want to thank you for what you did for us.
Yeah, just to add, I think what struck me with everything that's said is Bhaskar in his personal life is just about the same person as he is to you guys professionally. We can say that. He's very patient with all of us. He has his thoughts and opinions on many things, and he'd like to share them with you if you give him the time. What I did learn, I would say I did not learn. I spent a lot of time driving with him in his car. He tried to teach me DSP, and I was at Jacobs Engineering, but in applied physics. I had no desire of learning DSP. But I did learn American football from him. He did. I think he was an Oakland or LA Raider fan then at that point, and he did teach me that. We did have our disagreements in sports. He was a Celtics fan, and I was a Laker fan. So this was a problem, but we went past that. But most of all, I think what Bhaskar was, he was very supportive of us through all our challenges, and he was very patient.
Children, yes.
Yeah, and he's been a great uncle to our kids, and it's been a really wonderful thing to watch this honor that's been given to him, and he fully deserves it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we are waiting for Professor Rao to speak. So I will make my thoughts very brief. You already know that I was his second PhD student. Next slide. Okay, we have a common connection And relationship is a bit funny in some sense that we had a common professor who actually guided us through our BTech thesis. So Professor V.U. Reddy is a signal processing professor. He was Professor Rao's undergraduate thesis advisor in IIT Kharagpur, and then he moved to my university, and I was guided by him in my undergraduate. So we are in some sense undergraduate academic siblings. But we are also PhD student. I became a PhD student after him. So yeah, okay. This is a story which maybe it's not. So I just wanted to highlight this that Professor Reddy actually introduced me to Professor Rao, and that I approached him for doing my PhD after I finished my master's. And I was not sure why Professor Rao was in this aerospace, mechanical, or applied mechanics and engineering sciences department, because he was an ECE student or ECE professor. So my friend said that there's no way that you're going to go and work with him, because you are signal processing, you don't know anything about aerospace, you don't know anything about mechanical sciences. So what are you going to do there? And I was not sure whether I should apply. But then I met him in Hyderabad. I think he was maybe before his marriage or on his way to getting married. And then I felt that I should take a risk and let's try. What's the worst? I will learn something about mechanics and aerospace. So that's what I thought. But then Professor Rao also took a risk with me, because he didn't know who I was, and I was. He just went by, I think, Professor Reddy's recommendation, and I also went by Professor Reddy's recommendation. So my first impressions was fantastic teacher. I think I have learned a lot how to teach, how to present things clearly, and be committed that the student learns what is being taught. I think that is the most important part, because sometimes we get carried away that we are excited about it, but the student is left in the lurch. Very friendly and approachable, and he actually worked like a grad student. So when I was doing my PhD, he was like a grad student working. So it was very, very, I had keys to his office to use the workstation during the evening. So he used to give me his keys. And so we actually, I didn't really feel, because he's only about less than 5 years older to me. So, life was apartment to department. That was my life. But he had a wife, but then he still was working like. So I think we have been meeting regularly at different conferences, etc. So I left this page blank, intentionally blank, because I thought I'll just share impromptu. I don't have much time. All I can say is all those comments which were expressed, I think I wholeheartedly endorse, agree, and whatever I have learned and whatever has been my experience in research, I think I owe it to Professor Rao, because he taught me, or I learned from him, how to do research. And his commitment to research is almost infectious. So you can't step away and do something else because he's so passionate about it. And one great thing I admire about him was that he never engaged in talking about people non-technically, okay? So there was no comments about personalities or whatever. He's only committed about the work they do and the work which is exciting and inspirational. So that is one thing I have learned, and I keep telling my students the same, that concentrate on the technical part and don't worry about how people behave or misbehave with you. Okay, next. So I thought, again, deepest gratitude to Professor Rao, and whatever I have been able to do post my PhD, I think is a lot of it comes from the fact that I was a student and I learned because of his commitment to research and the technical part of life. Fantastic human being, so everything wonderful. So why I'm positioned last here is that I wanted to show the academic lineage of Professor Rao. So next slide. So this is a doctoral academic lineage. Next slide. Okay, I should, yeah, sorry. So we have been trying to, somebody mentioned that Confucius is part of the lineage. So I thought that, let me, yeah. So this is where. So we all know that Professor Kung was his doctoral advisor. Professor Kailath was Professor Kung's advisor. So he's a grand student of Professor Kailath. And then if you go up the doctoral tree, the year mentioned is the award of the doctoral award for that person. So Professor Wozencraft, I think many of you may have read his book, and then so on and so forth. Then we latch on to that Sommerfeld because I'm continuing in the next slide. So you can see that David Hilbert is in one branch of the tree, and on the top is Gauss. Okay, so it's wonderful. Then we come back to this branch again with Sommerfeld. You go up, you will see Lipschitz. Okay, then you get Dirichlet. Then you have Fourier and Poisson. So all these are part of this tree which Professor Rao belongs to. Okay, it doesn't end there. It goes on to Lagrange, Euler, Bernoulli, and Leibniz. So this is the rivalry with Newton also comes into play. And then go up, finally come to Copernicus. So it was inevitable that his name had Earth and his name had Sun. So therefore Copernicus had to be connected with him. And that's the academic lineage of Professor Rao. And I would like to present to him a poster of that. So thank you all. Thank you for this opportunity, and it was wonderful being here.